Our good buddy Ross Tucker was on the call for Westwood One last night, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He joins us on the program. Ross, thanks for joining us. I know you're short on sleep, having taken the red eye last night from Los Angeles. How would you sum up the final 2 minutes of that game last night?
Like a movie, Dan, that I've seen so many times before. I don't know if it's the sequel or the trilogy or what you start to call them after that, but it's really unbelievable, Dan, because from both sides, right? After landing like 40 minutes ago, and it's unbelievable how often Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce do that. I mean, I don't know what the live betting odds were that they would score a touchdown on that drive, but everybody, I mean everybody knew that was going to happen. And I think what's really interesting to me about it is walking out of that stadium last night, Dan, and seeing the Chargers fans. The Chargers fans just had this look on their faces, like they're like a beaten down bunch in the sense that they knew it was coming, but every time they get their hope up just a little bit. Herbert throws the deep ball to Keenan Allen, and then they throw the touchdown. Every time the Chargers get their hopes up against the Chiefs, and then Patrick Mahomes steals their heart.
Yeah, I wonder what those odds were for the Chiefs scoring a touchdown, because I certainly would have piled on the Chiefs. It was a question of how they were going to score a touchdown, not if. And you start to look at, is the MVP been right in front of us here for the last month or so? We just refuse to acknowledge that.
Well, I think Patrick Mahomes is the clear front runner right now, and I think you're probably right. Now, a lot of people were starting to say, they were saying Josh Allen for a while till he had those 2 games with the red zone interceptions. Jalen Hurts has had an awfully, awfully good year. But when you look at the stats for Mahomes, I mean, he's leading quarterbacks, Dan, in pretty much every category. And what's so impressive to me about it is all they did this offseason was trade away the best receiver in the NFL, arguably. I mean that's the part that's so impressive. Talking with some Chiefs folks, coaches before the game, they said, when they had Tyreek and Kelce, teams would double both of those guys, and at times they'd have to go elsewhere, and the other guys they would go to weren't always able to step up and get the job done. Whereas this year, they don't have Tyreek, but obviously Kelsey's been masterful. But then all the other guys, right, the Juju Smith-Schusters, Hardman, Sky Moore, all those guys have stepped up in their own way and made plays when they've been called upon. And it's almost like Mahomes has matured in his progression as a quarterback and doing a better job of just spreading the ball around to wherever the ball is supposed to go, unless he absolutely has to have it there. And then it's Travis Kelce, which, by the way, I know Derwin James is an awesome player. It's totally rare what Derwin James can do, Dan. But I thought that was a major coaching error on Brandon Staley on that drive, the entire drive, to put Derwin James man-to-man on Travis Kelce. That is asking a lot. And I can tell you, having been like in New England, Dan, there's no way Bill Belichick would have let Travis Kelce do that on that drive. There's no way. They would have doubled him. Somebody else would have had to beat him. Maybe Brandon Staley just has that much faith in Derwin James, but I thought they did not put James in a position to succeed. You cannot be covering Travis Kelce man-to-man in that situation.
Let me go back to what we were talking about with MVP with Mahomes. It feels like he's default MVP because we know we can trust him that he's going to be great. And the Chiefs might be the favorites because it feels like we know who they are and what they are. Week to week, it feels like, wow, where did that come from? Or that team's a lot better or a lot worse than I thought. It feels like the Chiefs right now are the best team in football.
Well, they're certainly one of them. I mean, obviously the Eagles are still 9-1. You know what I said last night, Dan, after the game that I was thinking about? We all feel the same way about Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? It's actually kind of wild that he's only won 1 Super Bowl, isn't it? Because in our head, we feel like he's been like an MVP caliber guy for 6 years now, and they go to the AFC Championship game every year. and we think he always gets it done, and we have all these memories against the Bills in the playoff game last year, whatever. But the reality is he's gotten to 2 Super Bowls and he's won one, which I don't know what the point is I'm making, other than maybe what Brady's done is ridiculous. But it just goes to show, I guess, how hard it really is, because it's hard for Mahomes to have played much better than he has so far in his career, and yet he only's won one of them.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, CBS Westwood One color analyst, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He was on the call Chargers Chiefs last night. I'm going to play this question and answer, Zach Wilson of the Jets, and how you think this answer will go over in the locker room with the Jets.
As an offense, though, I mean, when you guys are only able to score 3 points, the defense only lets up 3 points. I mean, do you feel like you let the defense down at all?
No. Thank you.
How do you think that's going to go over that? No, you didn't let the defense down.
Not very well. I saw that video, Dan, and I heard the audio earlier. That, to me, comes across as like insecurity, right? Like, if you're comfortable with who you are as a player and you're confident, then when you mess up, you own it, right? Like, the smartest people I know admit the things they don't know. The most successful people, like, if you screwed up on the show, Dan, you'd be like, "Oh, that's on me, fellas," because you know you're damn tricky and you're really good at it. When every once in a while, maybe you screw up. I think Zach Wilson is not confident. He doesn't feel good about who he is or where his standing is on the team. So it comes across as an insecure response or a defensive response. Whereas if he was a more established player, he'd be like, "Heck yeah, I feel bad." I think he knows what people are saying about him. And I think as a result, he doesn't want to flame the fire, right? Feed the fire by saying, "Yes, I do feel like I let those guys down. I do feel like the offense did." It's like he's got his burrs up and he's ready to defend himself and be defiant. And sometimes maybe that's why guys become good players, is because they have that defiance. But no, that's not going to go over real well. I mean, imagine being a defensive player in that locker room. You gave up 3 points the whole game and you still lost. Those guys must be furious. And I've said it for a couple of weeks. I feel like Robert Saleh has a decision to make at some point, because at some point it's a culture thing, and you need the players on the team to trust you and to trust that you're making the decisions to try to help them go to the playoffs and win these games. And it's starting to become painfully obvious that Zach Wilson does not give them the best chance to win these games.
You have the Giants and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. What do you expect, considering what just happened yesterday with these two teams?
Well, first of all, I think it's amazing that Odell Beckham Jr. is reportedly picking between these two teams. He should go to the game. I heard what Paulie said earlier. He should go to the game, and it should be like, you don't get the turkey leg if you win. You get the Odell. You get the Odell Beckham Jr. I've never seen – the guy is a marketing genius. I've never seen a guy get this much attention who tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. My prediction there, Dan, will be that this will be the most ineffectual signing in years. The guy had a torn ACL in the Super Bowl. We've been talking about this for months. I mean, it's unbelievable. The Cowboys even have their own marketing strategy of just keep talking about it, and show him the power of the brand of the Cowboys. I mean, I hope he plays well at this point, because we've been talking about it so much. That's kind of the beauty of the NFL. Like, it wouldn't shock me if the Giants beat the Cowboys on Thursday. The Cowboys just looked like the best team. They just murdered the Vikings. The Giants looked awful. They got run over by the Lions. They couldn't do anything. But none of that really matters when they go inside the white lines on Thursday. Now, do I think that'll happen? No. I think the Cowboys will probably win the game. I think they're the better team. I think they're more talented. But that's kind of the beauty of it, is that there is no carryover, right? Like, yeah. I saw where the Cowboys now, Dan, have the second best Super Bowl odds. It's Kansas City and then the Cowboys. So the 3 lost Cowboys, on the strength of that performance yesterday, jumped over other teams like the Vikings, like the Eagles, in terms of the Super Bowl. But nobody cares how good you looked on November 20th in January. It doesn't really matter, other than, I guess, giving those guys some confidence of just how high their ceiling is.
Great to talk to you. Safe travels home there, and have fun on Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
That's Ross Tucker, CBS Westwood One color analyst, host of Ross Tucker Football Podcast. And you can follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL.